Hi everyone, it's a pleasure to be here in front of all of you and as part of this wonderful panel. Today's topic revolves around how the different DPI stacks that India is building, how they become interoperable, how do they come together to make the life of our rural citizens better. This includes the Agri stack, the health stack, the finance stack, all of this coming together. So in terms of the flow of the session, what we'll try to cover is first to understand what are the needs of the rural citizens, what are the key challenges that we are trying to solve for. From there, we'll progress on to where do we see progress as of now, what are some early promising signs, what are the early challenges that we are seeing in solving these issues through the DPI stack. Lastly, we will move on to understand that if we were to scale this up for India scale, we have 600 million plus rural population. How do we actually get it meaningfully? What is it required? What does India need to do this successfully? That will be the broad flow of the session. And I'm pleased to be with a very esteemed panel, which brings diverse perspectives. Mr. Akash brings a perspective of bringing, of commercializing innovation at the ground level, bringing the knowledge of India to the globe and back. Mr. Bharat Sahoo, he brings a very good perspective of the rural customer as his bank directly deals with such customers. Then we have Mr. Rajendra ji, sorry, Ranjeet ji, sorry. We have Mr. Ranjeet ji, who also brings a very good perspective of working with both sides, with the banks as well as with the customers, and how do we effectively deliver credit to these customers. We have Mr. Ravindra ji, who again brings a very different role. He builds on top of UPI rails to build platforms which connects both sides of the equation. And finally, we have Mr. Vivek ji, who again is part of the credit value chain towards rural and agri sectors. So to start off, I would like to invite Mr. Bharat ji to talk more about, sir, what is it that our rural citizens currently lack? What is it that they want? Especially from the perspective of finance, agri, what are the current challenges that need to be solved? If you can just provide some perspective of that, we can get a better view.
Yeah, good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, everyone. See, basically, I'm from agriculturalist because I'm done my graduation from Agriculture University, Odisha. And I was also in commercial bank, now in the cooperative bank. See, I have seen what exactly the farmers need in their field and also how the rural people maintaining their life. It's a, if you, I'm also from village, so I've seen how they are maintaining their life and they are always comparing their life, standard of life to the urban people. See, definitely everybody wants more and to live happily and healthy, peacefully. So, but in agriculture, in rural belt, 70% people or 65-70% people are living in our rural belt. गांव में है. Interior side, even they are moving to the urban or to pick up their bus or to go to the hospital, they needs hours together to reach the hospital or to bus stop or to railway station. So how their standard of living will change. Yes, definitely this is the farmers are there in the rural belt. Their livelihood is agriculture. But I was also doing in the farming after my graduation. The practical problem I faced is the marketing of farm produce. Till now, the bumper production is there. Even if tomatoes per kg is 50 paisa only in this season in winter. Whatever you will say, vegetable or fruits or in pulses, grains, everywhere. But see, why the farmers are not getting the proper price of their farm produce, but exactly throughout the season or throughout the year, they have already put their labor. We are talking here for 1 hour, we are getting lumps of amount. We are working in environmental where totally air conditioned, but they are working in under the sun, under the rain. They are facing the winter. They are From morning 6 or before 5 morning, they are up to night. After all, how much they will get if their farm producer not get the proper price. So still now, to increase their per capita income, it needs the actually price should be like we should come, we should plan accordingly. So a regulated market system for the farm produce so that the will pick up the procurement of their farm produce and also to give them proper price and the consumer. So from farmers or the producer to consumer is the big gap. The middleman is taking all the benefits. So in order to reduce this gap, the policymakers should come, the government should act so that he should get proper price, proper respect to their labor. So my humble submission to all everybody is, if you are thinking something, how to will think their income of per capita income of all the rural people, only then he will get proper respect. And second thing that we are talking about of finance, I will tell last in the health perspective. To get the finance is really it's too difficult. Still they depend upon the handhold loans, saukars. The cooperative structure is more than 100 years. For why? If still now they are not getting proper price, proper loan amount and time based, in time loan, so many hindrances are there, problems are there. Because in finance, to get the finance, the physical process still going on in this cooperative sector. Paperwork, land record, everything is required. So to get within, like private banks, commercial banks giving, and so many fintech coming up, and also NBFC, within 2 seconds, banks are telling you can get the loan. What we are getting in the rural, urban people or salaried people. But in actually farmers are not getting like that. So the digitalization of land records so that and proper price so that immediate loan can be given to the farmers at the requirement of the time need base. And third is health. Again, it is a horrible condition in the rural belt. For simple government will think so many Ayushman Bharat scheme. Digital base means other base. The farmer should get every information of their for in rural, even if they are video conferencing for the doctors and to get the proper prescription from the All India Institute of Medical Science or any hospital to come together to DPI, digital public infrastructure. If you get all the information together, I think there will be some changes will come to the rural belt. Thank you.
Perfect, sir. So I think you've set a good ground. You've covered multiple points in terms of how the aspirations are matching towards what urban lifestyles are. You've talked about the produce side and as well as the sell side and what needs to happen there. You also talked about how digitization needs to happen, which is where I would like to call in Ranjeet ji. Since you work at the cusp of providing digital credit to these farmers, if you could just help us understand how has that kind of changed? What are the aspirations of these farmers, as well as where are still some bottlenecks or frictions that we face? That will give us a good view.
So good afternoon, everyone. I'm Ranjeet Gautam, MD and CEO of Bank Ventures, a company which is developing eKCC platform. That means we are aiming to onboard farmer, why my fellow panel was telling that digitization should happen. So we are trying to develop a platform and envisaging that a farmer will come on mobile or web application where he can apply for a loan. And we are definitely using the DPI in terms of Aadhaar, because to provide any loan, we first need to identify the credentials of that particular person. So if we get Aadhaar, thankfully it is available. We are getting the identified, him as a bona fide borrower or applicant. Once he provides that Aadhaar, we immediately ask what is the lender you want to go, and definitely he provides me the lender. And thankfully, with the help of Reserve Bank of India Innovation Hub, we have integrated with 9 states where we are fetching the land records. Uh, Farmer need not to bring the physical copies of the land records. Normally, for taking any loan, a farmer is supposed to provide the land records to the bank. Where what we have done, we have integrated with the land record of the respective state government and fetching the land record where it is providing all type of charges if anything is there. And once this is done, we are just asking what type of crop he is going to grow on that particular land, and he provides the name of the crop. In the back end, we have mapped all the scale of finance for the people who are not working in the agriculture area. A scale of finance is the criteria, is the amount is fixed by the respective district and state level technical committee, that 1 acre of wheat the farmer can get loan on this. So this is what we calculate, and we immediately provide the sanction. And in principle sanction, of course, in principle sanction means whatever the information farmer has given, we have given a technical sanction. Of course, the sanction is the right of the financial institution, because to see whether he is a bona fide applicant or not. Once bank verifies, do the due diligence, we have separate journeys also where we can integrate with the CBS and all. But in agriculture, what we feel, unless and until a branch manager or the PAC secretary is not having a say in that sanction, then he will not be responsible in the recovery. And in rural areas, we feel that recovery is a real challenge, not because of the default of the borrower, but mostly farmers take lot of risk. Their crop is open sky and they face the flood challenges and the drought challenges and all type of challenges farmers face. So once this is the journey is completed, then the bank can disburse and disburse a loan. I'll be very happy. When we started this work, we used to say that you can get pizza in 30 minutes, but a farmer who produce so many crops, he cannot get his due credit in 30 days even. But I'm very happy to share you, we have yesterday only we have on our platform 550 crore rupees was sanctioned, and 200 crore rupees, over 200 crore rupees we achieved as a disbursement. And you will not believe, it is coming 1.49 days in the disbursement. And we are trying, and of course our banks are, those who have partnered with us, they are also trying to reduce this time. And definitely we are integrating with their CBS, etc. So these are the things which we are doing slowly, and almost all the states we have reached. And particularly we are focusing only on the rural RRBs and the cooperative banks, so that they need more tech side of support. So I think this is from my side. And
perfect. And I think one interesting stat we were discussing earlier, that the myth is that farmers might not do themselves digitally. Yes. What I understand from you is 50% of your journeys are actually done self, while 50% are assisted, right?
See, normally what happens, we have created our journeys like this, कि farmer can get assisted also, because we understand the literacy rate among the farmer. So when we see the surprisingly, most of the 50% farmers are being assisted either by the branch managers or by some sort of assistant. Currently we are using only branch managers assistance, but rest of 50% farmers are being onboarded. Maybe they may not be using the application, but their family members and all. So the thing is that the farmer needs a really very, very simple intuitive platform, so that just by clicking some drop down, he can provide his all the information. Of course, that should be matching with the bank appraisal system also, because ultimately banks are going to give that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Perfect. So I think I'll just shift gears and move to a more global setup. So आकाश जी आप ने काम किया है across India and globally 16 plus countries your company works in across different countries how do you see what are the universal needs of rural how does Indian rural citizens needs compare to those globally and which do you feel are uniquely solvable because of the DPI setup that we have and we are building in India.
Thank you, Pranav, for that question. Hello, everyone. I'm Akash Bhavsar from SkyQuest. While since 2006, we've been working on identifying grassroots level gaps and trying to find solutions or developing, co-developing, and then implementing solutions across health, energy, water, agriculture, and related solutions. And that journey has taken me to more than 30 plus countries, working in hinterland to the forefront as well. Few things which really stand out with regards to the rural needs across, let me use the word, countries for global south, where India today stands as a leader of country, of the global south. Few factors which stand out and which are sort of universal gaps, first and foremost being rural population requiring a predictable income, not income events, but predictable income streams. Number two is protection from shocks, which could be health shocks, weather shocks, or price shocks, as sir also referred to. And number three is dignified access to finance and services without the undue or bureaucracy and paperwork and being burdened by that. And while this remains universal, in fact, even in developed countries, in the disparity in even the poor sections, like even in the US, access to finance and all, so these factors stand out as common. But India today is very uniquely poised because of our already implemented stack of the digital public infrastructure, wherein we have the first starting point is having an identity, which is done through Aadhaar. And UPI basically, which creates a kind of a interconnected real-time payment settlement network, right? The account aggregators framework, which allows for data to be shared across the financial institutions at a click of a button. The Ayushman Bharat digital mission, which sort of creates a framework of health insurance and abilities to access healthcare services at a subsidized or in some cases even free. And the ONDC and the logistics framework, which has also been made live, which enables access and improves the supply chain across the country. So, I think part of the question which you had said was also what would a minimum, what would be a
minimum
dignity stack look like? Yeah. So, in my view, and I believe, so the first and foremost stands, when you have a mechanism to have identity being verified and known, which is Aadhaar, including, but not just stopping at the Aadhaar, possibly Pashu Aadhaar or the livestock, because that is one of the source of wealth for the rural folks, and the land and the location records being integrated in some way, so that, and we have a great example, Ranjeet ji was mentioning that they're able to pull in both the Aadhaar and the land records linked, thereby also being used to, for the loan disbursement. And in terms of, so that I believe would become the backbone of a dignity kind of
a minimum dignity stack. So I think
dignity stack.
what it will mean is to basically say for any rural citizen to be heard, to be seen, to be known anywhere, whether it will be in a finance setup, a health setup, or any other setup, they should have that unique identity being identified everywhere.
Yes.
And not limiting to the citizens, but also their assets, their livestock, as you were saying.
Yes. And if I can just quickly add, the UPI enablement essentially allows, today there are many farmers who receive payments and make payments through UPI.
Yeah.
If that UPI trail can also be used to create their credit history, right? I mean, not credit history, but basically their financial history, which can be used.
A footprint which can be used to do more, essentially.
So that becomes, and that India can enable it today, now,
Correct.
yesterday. So that is a very important component. And last but not the least will be the insurance part, which is APDM and other mechanisms to prevent shocks, weather, and with climate change and weather vagaries, you have these micro insurances as well as
everything
health
is taken
insurance,
care of.
so that shocks can be prevented and they can get more consistency and thereby dignity. So, yeah. Thank
Understood.
you.
So I think that's a great point, and I'll just take it back to the point you were saying about how India's DPI approach involves the identity layer, the payments layer, the paperless layer, and the consent layer, that is, and then some vertical layers on top of it, including commerce, health, agri, finance, and so on. Which brings me to my point to Ravindra ji. Given that you work at the intersection of building on top of DPIs and have exposure to a variety of different DPIs, I would want to know, where do you see are some of the most promising examples of agri, health, finance DPIs coming together, and what are the challenges, non-technical barriers that still prevent it from scaling largely?
Hi, good afternoon. I'm Ravindra Misra. I'm Chief Product Officer in Online PSB Loans, OPL, popularly known. And we are a technology service providers to most of the banks, bigger banks, SBI, PNB, BOP, every bank almost. And through our journeys, almost 3 lakh crore loans have been disbursed, which is a huge number considering India. And we have built entire journeys or solutions on the DPI structure in India. So whether it is Aadhaar, PAN, or Udyam, any data is available countrywide. We are using that data. Now, talking about the interoperability, I think that is what was meant by Pranav, right? So first thing is that what is interoperability? It is basically if you go to one data source, you get the all other information from the other data sources. So the data is shared actually. So you are not dependent in or working in silos actually, that you are working only for, if you are going to Aadhaar, you are getting Aadhaar, you are going to PAN, you are getting PAN, you are going to bank account, you are getting. So the all other services also have the information that you have gone there and got the information for others. I'll give you an example. Suppose I go and fetch your Udyam using your PAN. So the PAN provider or NSDL should know that PAN has been used here. This kind of interoperability is still not existing. We are using this interoperability for the purpose of validating the information. So I am using PAN to validate your account. I am using PAN to validate Aadhaar or Aadhaar to validate PAN. So all these things are still there, Pranav. But the entire interoperability where I give one ID and I get the entire information from all the data sources is still work in progress. Work in progress.
Got it.
One more example I will give, that suppose we operate Jan Samad portal of government of India, and there suppose we are working for say KCC and we have integration with Agri Stack. Now suppose I say to Agri Stack that you integrate with Jan Samad and we get the entire information here, and it is a kind of interoperability because the entire Agri Stack is based on certain ID of farmer ID is created there. But the problem is that, which you were asking, non-technical, that every DPI or data source in DPI is built on certain protocols. So one is the technical part, but because you asked me non-technical part. So non-technical part could be the organization is different. One ministry is working on one data source. One organization has got rules for one data source, security protocols for one data source. They will not share with others. So unless we have a unified structure across country where the all data sources come under the same protocol, same governance, same regulatory rules, same kind of organization, different organizations have different rules to share the data. Unless that is there, it is very difficult to get the entire interoperability among the DPI. So that's my answers to your query.
Thank you so much. So I think also in terms of the different identifiers, right now we see you have different IDs. So you have an ABHA ID which is separate. You have an Aadhaar ID which is separate.
So you have to work differently
IDs.
actually. So somebody, suppose some bank comes and says that we want to work with PAN. So we'll work with PAN. Government says you work with Aadhaar, we work with Aadhaar, but Aadhaar cannot be used as the only identity.
Right.
So we have to use election card or some other mechanism also for that. But it is not like interoperable that we use Aadhaar and we get the election card also.
Information, that's something which needs to be worked on. Perfect. So now I'll just like to call in Vivek ji. Again, your firm works a lot on supply chain finance, input finance. and hence you blend a lot of agri signals. You bring in transaction behavior and stitch all of that to give information in terms of whether to give credit, what rate to give credit at, and so on to your co-lenders and your own firm. I would like to know from you, how interoperable have you found these signals so far? And in terms of what lessons that you have learned and what could be done better?
Yeah, no, great question, Pranav. So I'm Vivek. I'm from Jai Kisan, and essentially what we do is work with financial institutions and corporates where we help digitize receivable, formalize these receivables, eventually get the corporates as well as their channel partners onto a marketplace where they can avail financing. Along with this, what we also look at is working with a lot of small financial institutions and provide front-end tech stacks to them. Coming to the question, Pranav, essentially what we have seen is that when you look at ULI, right? What happens is that these are data sets that have not been available to financial institutions until very recently. The manner in which underwriting was done was in a very, very different manner. Now, specifically coming to finance, agri, and health, what happens is that today a financial institution has actually been opened up to looking at this kind of data set which is available on ULI. You have all sorts of information. You have Manrega, you have GST ITR enablement, you have MSME data, you have legal data, you have health records coming up as well. And now with the availability of this kind of stuff to financial institutions, to health organizations, as well as to cooperatives, this could become a game changer. With respect to learnings around these spaces, what we need to actually be cognizant about the fact is that this data is very, very dynamic in nature. For example, GST data will change every quarter. I'm just putting an example out there, but essentially what I'm trying to drive as a point is that financial institutions need to be very hands-on with this data and have a more evolutionary journey with this data so that institutions, whether they may be banks, whether they may be NBFCs, whether they may be cooperatives, as they adopt, because that is going to be the norm as they adopt, if they are at the forefront of this adoption, their data sets will be far richer, their journeys will be far richer, and they will have a lot of headroom available to learn from mistakes during this adoption.
Thanks, Vivek. That gives the perspective of where we are today. I think now we'll just shift gears a little bit and move a little fast. So I think 60 seconds for each of you for the next few questions. So first, I'd like to call back Mr. Ranjeet ji. In terms of the farmer journeys that you are currently stitching, how have you been able to leverage this interoperability? Where has DPI actually helped you? And where are these inconsistent identifiers still breaking the journey where you see potential to do better?
Thank you, Pranav. So first of all, if we talk about the Aadhaar, definitely we are the beneficiary of Aadhaar. But if you see the nomenclature of Aadhaar, it is very, very difficult if you find. For example, in Gujarat, you will find first name Patel, Bharat Bhai, Raman Bhai. In Tamil Nadu, the name something will be very big and then it is something different. If you want to put any kind of logic, it is very, very difficult. For example, Dikshit is a surname in UP and Dikshit is a name in Gujarat. So how we have to figure it out? Of course, this needs to be taken care by the government. Then secondly, the most important question comes when it comes to the land records. See, any farmer or any eventuality happens with that family, the name is still there and it continues to be there for 1 year, 2 years, 3 years. And the Aadhaar is also there. So it is very, very difficult. If we create some STP, we do not know because the person has died, but the land record name is still there, Aadhaar is still there, and somebody can get that OTP on that Aadhaar. So these are the real challenges, and we feel we need to have these answers for in the future coming to this.
I agree. I think I was also talking to someone else, and they were mentioning the same thing. They work in housing finance. They were saying in terms of digitizing property records, that's happening, but in terms of the data quality of it, in terms of being able to match some of these identifiers across different stacks, that is where the challenge lies and where true STP is still becoming a bit of a challenge.
Here, one more thing as far as health is concerned. See, the KCC limit consists to 10% family consumption. But what happens? This 10% and farm mechanization for the 20% is not covered under the interest subvention. So bankers are reluctant to give this limit. This 30% is huge. So if some farmer gets some sickness or some consumption requirement, he has no option but to approach to any money lender. So if this is also covered in the interest subvention,
Right.
then of course it will not only increase the credit offtake also, because 30% is a huge amount. If we are talking about 14 crore KCC, so if we multiply, let's say 7 lakh crore multiplied by 30%, automatically the agriculture offtake will increase.
Yeah.
If so, this also needs to be taken care.
Absolutely. Great points, I think. Mr. Bharatji, I'd just like to call upon you. I think yesterday we heard from Honorable Amit Shah ji talking about the great roles cooperatives need to play, cooperative banks need to play. And with respect to that, for cooperative banks to scale up to the next level, what is the top constraint or what are the top priorities that you feel, top one priority in 60 seconds, if you could just summarize, to be able to do this well?
Thank you. See, very simple question. Cooperative banks are more than 100 years. But where they are now? Commercial banks, private sector banks, any other banks, new generation banks, 20 years, 25 years, where they are now? Why this is the difference? Very simple. Cooperative banks, rural RCBs, rural cooperative banks, first, most important, they are facing the challenges is manpower, human asset, human resource. Their professionalism, their knowledge level to cater their farmers is difficult. Second, infrastructure. In rural belt, the banks are running even somewhere else without fans also. And there no place to where to they sit, and farmers are coming and standing in a queue, huge queue, during the season, paddy season, whatever maybe you can see. And that is the hindrance
Right.
infrastructure. Third thing, if we'll see, this no standard policies across from north to south, east to west, different work culture is going on.
Uh-huh.
So my perspective, so we are working, cooperative banks are working 33%, 30% manpower. If strength is 100, we are working only 30%. And the professionalism should be increased. And government should come across, help all the cooperative banks to
Right.
fill up the gap. And infrastructure wise, capital requirement is there. Because like the private sector banks, any public sector banks, they have huge capitals to use for the infrastructure
Right.
point of view. So that's also needs to be.
Sure. So if I
Work
can
on.
summarize my understanding of this, so you're saying from an infra perspective, there's a bit of capital requirement that needs to be put in there.
Definitely.
There's a knowledge which needs to be built in. There should be some
Definitely.
sort of support to build that knowledge in the banks and change the culture, the mindset, which has been built over 100 plus years, as you say,
Yeah.
as opposed to other banks, and modernize that essentially. That's
Definitely,
why.
definitely. It is need to be
Yeah.
policymakers and the government. Everybody should work together to
Right.
bring this gap.
So I'll just call on Mr. Vivek ji to talk about more in terms of the future in the next 24 months. What is that one workflow that you feel which stitches 2 or 3 of these stacks which you're talking about, agri, health, finance? What is that one workflow which will have the maximum impact, is most realistic to be done in the next 24 months in India?
No, great. I'll keep this crisp. As per me, in the next 24 months, in terms of the stacks and rails that are available today, what I feel our best bet as India stack is to get UPI transaction insights integrated into finance, agri, as well as health. Simple drill down for this is that for finance, any financial services that are being offered today, customer behavior is very important to be analyzed, and customized products is what India, urban and rural, is looking for. So that can be delivered. Health insurance can be dynamically priced. You can understand and derive a lot of insights around a person's health just by looking at their transactions. And also the same can be done from an underwriting perspective for loan journeys. So this is my bet.
Perfect, perfect. Now,
Also, just want to add here, essentially to implement this, I don't see too many barriers because A, there is no state level adoption required here, and B, you have something called as the NPCI in the middle, which has done a fantastic job, and standardizing these transactions, looking at something like MCC codes here, could be a game changer.
Perfect. So I think that's why I think is what you say. That's the most realistic use case as per you. I'll just call in Ravindra ji for his perspective, given that you work with different kinds of institutions. And for this is something different institutions need to come together, which can be banks, non-banks, of course. Within banks also you have different public, private, cooperative, everyone with their own challenges. What is the single biggest thing that you see might be the hindrance for us to scale DPI? And what kind of barriers do you see differ by type of institution? How can you solve that?
No, see, we have been working with the government also on a portal called Jan Samad. We have been working with the banks, a marketplace called PSB 59. We are working with the banks on white label journeys also. So the DPI data source, if you say, which is the largely used, or I mean, the scalability, I think we are using PAN mostly in most of our journeys, where the PAN is used for Udyam, GST, but validation purposes. But I think the single most data use could be in future Aadhaar, which is like, I mean, as not created as national identity, but still Aadhaar could be made use of in going forward, where most of the journeys can include, and if interoperability is there going forward, then I think the one single use case can be Aadhaar, which can be inbuilt in all journeys for all the customers. Another thing you said, the difficulties with different
What are the
institutions, barriers and
across
all.
different
So I think the barrier is, I mean, government banks have taken lead, of course, in digitalizing the things, or digitalizing the journeys, and giving digital solution to the customers and business owners. And this has not happened so much with the private banks, which we see happening now. But the biggest thing is the business rule engine. Even though if you understand the loan policies of the banks, public sector banks are very stiff compared to the private sector banks. But still they have been very liberal in devising their business rule engines, which are used in the digital loan journeys. And a lot of loans have happened because of that. So I think if a difference can be said, it is in the loan policy, which comes into play in business rule engine, setting up the business rule engine. So some bank can have a stiffer bank business rule engine, some may have loose business rule engine. But the difference is that only, otherwise in the usability of DPI is there is no difference actually.
Right,
Yeah.
right. So I think that covers well. And I think we spoke about one more thing. I remember when we were talking about the session, you had mentioned that it's very key for adoption to be built. We have to get to the grassroots level. We need to leverage business correspondence. We need to leverage
Yes.
the ASHA network that we have.
That you are talking about the rural part actually.
Absolutely.
So what I was talking at that time was that when you are working in an urban area or urban population, the literacy and the understanding and awareness and the cyber security related rules, DPDP rules, all this awareness is very much there in the urban areas. In the rural areas, we need a lot of education programs by the government to make the people aware, and then there has to be some support to be given to the farmers or rural people, and which can be from the BCs or the bank people themselves actually in the branch.
To build that awareness and reach. Perfect. I think last 60 seconds, Akash ji, in terms of cross-sector data sharing, use cases, and again, an example being account aggregator, where there are differences in terms of incentives. Some banks feel that they should only be, let's say, consumers of data, not providers of data. We see a bit of resistance in terms of participating well. So in terms of ensuring that we have, let's say, a more innovative, fostering culture or environment for innovation to happen, do you think we should depend on regulatory mandates? Do you think it should be monetization is the key to unlock that? Or what do you think is that model which will help us reach that unlock?
That's a lovely question. Thanks, Pranav, for that. Actually, there is no single, not just the mandate won't work and just monetization won't work. The first step remains is certain rails have to be mandated, whereas the monetization basically should be based on the democratization of the data available, and the entrepreneurial and the ecosystem will actually build on top of it. You see, we had a very interesting, as a digital transformation advisory work, what we do. One of the interesting case studies and examples was the implementation of under the RTGS, which was real-time governance system of Andhra Pradesh government, where they actually mandated to implement a single WhatsApp number to be implemented for every citizen across, for rural, urban, for paying taxes to getting land records certification to any services. And we mapped out that close to 800 services are what a citizen or a business interacts with the government on. And of which all of these, almost 700 services have been digitized and been brought to a single WhatsApp chat, right? So what we learned in this process is that the farmer is already digital. It's the system which actually has to catch up. So the point is that we have to work through, there are quite a few key actors here on the panel itself. When these work in unison, I think that, a farmer who started accepting payments in UPI, but, when he goes to apply for loan, he's asked for a guarantor and, Xerox copies or photocopies of documents, etc. So how can it be this divergent thing? So that needs to be streamlined, and I think bank benchers probably are enabling it. And I think a lot more needs to be done on those regards. I believe that interoperability of both the data and a government push and the political will to make that happen, that is what would actually drive in India, in my view. And then the adoption will scale with various use cases emerging. Right? So we don't want another app for the farmer. There are enough and more platforms, and probably this use case of WhatsApp was very beautiful, where on a single number now they are able to give their grievances. It has an internal escalation matrix, rises all the way up to the CM, if needed. So those are the kind of implementation layers built on top of existing robust DPI stack that we already have.
Got it.
So those are the things I foresee are going to really be instrumental in adoption, and thereby real farmer benefit or rural benefit. Thank you.
I think just coming to the first thing you said, basically there's no single answer. It's a combination. I think UPI has seen success through zero MDR, but it needs to create value for everyone, all the stakeholders in the ecosystem. That itself will bring about that adoption, although backed by some bit of governance to ensure that that adoption is there. I think you have some points, sir?
Yeah, I wanted to add here that why the urban India has seen success of digital journeys or digital lending journeys is because we were dependent on basically taking collaterals, securities. It was more of a security dependent kind of decision making rather than the cash flow against the cash flow. So the moment we came into the digital lending, it has become now the cash flow based lending. We are taking the invoices, financing invoices, directly taking data from GST, deciding on the basis of that. So I think when this moves to rural India also, that will be of a great importance, because then we'll also not be dependent on what kind of land size he has. Rather than we'll see what kind of climate impact is there on that land, what is the crop pattern, what is all. And that will provide a more risk mitigation to the bank to not insist on the land holding rather than giving the loan actually on basis all these inputs.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Perfect. I think thank you so much to this lovely panel. I think we got a good view in terms of where we are today, where are the possibilities, and what will it take across different institutions to actually reach the scale that we aspire to. So I think with that, I'd like to conclude the session. Thank you so much, everyone.